VC, what's going on? I have a few things to talk about, okay? First up, Trish Mullins, thank you so much for the card and the gift. Once I find what I'm going to get with the gift card, I'll make a video and show it to you. Thank you very much, Trish. Thank you. Well, I wake up I was thinking before I got up that I was probably going to make a video today, but as I'm laying in the bed then wait for the news, the top of the hour news, this morning was at 7, usually be either at 6 or 7 I'm awake and listening to the news. Besides hearing about Trump and everything he's doing, showing very clearly that America is not a democracy, but it is a corporation. It's just a big business. He's running it like a business. If anything good happens for the American people, it's only because something he did business-wise will create some jobs, but it's not for the benefit of the people. I will continue to maintain that. Trump doesn't give a damn about people. Corporations don't care about people. But besides hearing about Trump, which I'm so sick of the man already, I get the news that we lose another rock and roll great. Someone whose music and work has shaped my life, literally, it really has. There's another thing I want to talk about in the video besides this, but it's tied into it. But it has to do so much why I show and listen to the music I listen to, as opposed to people insisting every time I turn around, let's see more hip-hop, let's see more hip-hop. This is the music of my life, okay, for a lot of reasons, okay. King Crimson, the original singer and bass player of King Crimson, Greg Lake, has passed away at 69. Apparently he had suffered long from cancer. This album is significant to me. I'll never forget the first time I saw it in 1969 in a record store. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was a record. But this was frightening and also completely compelling. It's like every time I'd go to the store, I couldn't afford it. I'd just go to look at it. I tried to steal it one time and failed. It's probably a good thing. Interestingly, I don't have it anymore, but when the single In the Court of the Crimson King, Part 1 and 2 came out, it actually made it into the stores, and I bought it. I could afford that. I don't have it anymore. I played it to death, and I don't know where it is. It's gone. It's gone. But Greg Lake, on the first 2 King Crimson albums, was the bass player and singer. Very distinct voice. Emerson, Lake and Palmer too. When he defected to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I remember the first time I heard this on the radio. I didn't know what it was. I recognized his voice, but I also recognized how good the music was. Take a Pebble was what I heard, and I said, I must know this music. Some of my favorite music. I have most of Emerson, Lake and Palmer's albums, but I kept these out because these are the good ones that I like. Trilogy. What a voice. Bass player too. Pictures at an Exhibition. Tarkus, probably my favorite of all their albums. This is my favorite. And then the one that's the most acclaimed, Brain Salad Surgery. Yes, I got to see Emerson, Lake and Palmer years ago on one of their major tours where Carl Palmer had the big, huge drum set that would hydraulically lift up and do shit. They were quite good in concert. But I want to relate this because I like telling my story. Over the years doing this channel, I consistently get requests from people who watch and obviously don't know me, wanting to see more hip-hop. As though I'm supposed to show more hip-hop or something, I want to explain that the music I show has a lot to do with how I identify in the world. And since being a very small child, when I got the message very clearly, not only from my family, but everyone around me, that I was an oddball, I was a nerd, I was a geek, I was the odd man out, I didn't quite fit, I wasn't Mr. Popular, Mr. Cute, Mr. Sports or whatever, I was the weirdo. And so I've always related to stuff on the fringe, stuff outside the mainstream. Obviously I like what everybody else likes, Beatles being a perfect example. But when I first started to catch wind of other music that just kind of took me to another world, I just went for it. King Crimson is a perfect example of that, just like Genesis. Just like the Mothers of Invention, when I first heard them in the 60s, when I first heard Pink Floyd in the 60s, I heard them in the 60s. Such a full of secrets before this music, before everyone knew about it. I've always related to that. That has a lot to do with why I don't listen to and relate more to a lot of the mainstream, which the mainstream is hip-hop. For several generations now, hip-hop has been the rock and roll of the youth. And I've always felt, like I just said, music has always been the more important thing to me than the words. Even though we're talking about the voice of King Crimson, and his voice was very distinct, only a few songs, word-wise, stand out to me. Epitaph, which is still very relevant over here, and others. It was the sound of his voice. And so with hip-hop, because it's all about flow and words and stuff, I'm still focused on the music. But for example, here's one hip-hop single I have, the Herbalizer General. Pulled this last night, just was pulling randomly and decided to play it. I love this track, but here's why. It's the backing track. Why do I have this single? Because this one has the remix, but it also has the instrumental version where there's no words. There's a wipe it of the vocal track. That's what I like. They've sampled some kind of John Barry, James Bond movie music on this. Really like the way they use it. The flow is cool, but what they're talking about doesn't capture my interest. It doesn't. And to this day, even though people like me and I make myself welcome, inside I still feel like the odd man out. And my music taste is a reflection of that world. It is. And so people like Greg Lake and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I used to get beat up for listening to this music in my community, like something was wrong with me. I wasn't black enough, It's all ridiculous to me. I'm a human being. I say it, I'm frowning because it's so ridiculous that to this day, we don't have more illuminated thinking where people just accept labels and think according to labels, as opposed to really having free minds. 2016 has been a bitch as far as just letting us know the ticking of the time clock continues. We're all getting older. Everyone's going to die. Everyone is dying. A lot of people from what I consider the golden age of music. I was born in 1955 when teenage culture, in many ways, appeared for the first time on this planet. The revolution of teenage culture. So I was there for the dropping of the bomb. Excuse me. And this music on the fringe of it has been what I truly identify with. I'm going to keep this one short. Rest in peace, Greg Lake. Rest in peace. Oh, the other thing I want to say about hip-hop is I do check out hip-hop. For example, I listened to the new Childish Gambino, Awaken My Love, because I was hearing all this hype about how it sounds just like Funkadelic. It does sound just like Funkadelic. I can't remember what he was saying. I was listening to the music, okay? So that's why I don't have a hip-hop collection. Sorry, guys. I'm not sorry. I'm just telling you, okay? Trying to explain I'm an individual, okay? Why is that hard to understand? If you happen to see this before 2 o'clock Central Standard Time today is my first radio show. It'll be streaming online, so you can listen to it online. I'll put the link below. KXNB. I'm calling the show The Roots of Electric Jazz because that was kind of what they were looking for. But if I continue the show, if I do the show and it continues, obviously what I really want to do is just blow that sucker wide open and just play music that you just don't hear on the radio. Today I'm going to be focusing on the cluster of musicians that exploded electric jazz, starting with Miles Davis. He wasn't the first, but he was a catalyst for some amazing changes in music, period. And so it's going to be that group of musicians in particular that I'm going to focus on today. Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, Eddie Henderson, John McLaughlin. But I also want to play today, because I want to just let that be known, playing some Sun Ra today and Art Ensemble of Chicago. I would really like to get some music on the radio here in Omaha that would not be played otherwise. There is a station that plays jazz in Omaha, but it's a very narrow, very whitewashed version of jazz. Very safe. You know what I'm saying? I want to bust that shit wide open. Okay. There's the smile. Rest in peace, Greg Lake. Thanks again, Trish. I discovered another person on making videos who's showing some prog. I forget his name already. Great collection. Keep it going, people. Also, if you don't have any of my records, I'll leave the link. Check me out. I'm writing a whole bunch of new music. Hope I can get some of it out on vinyl next year.